I'm Charlotte, 73 years old, a widow, and someone who spent decades believing that raising a good child meant he would always remain one. My husband Robert and I built our life together from absolute nothing student debt, big ambitions, and a shared dream of commercial real estate in Phoenix. 40 years of marriage, 12 properties, a business that breathed long after Robert took his final breath in our kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Coffee cup still in his hand. He left behind more than property. He left a carefully structured trust, worth roughly $4 million, plus $30,000 in monthly rental income, designed to protect our son Daniel, while I remained alive, and to transfer fully to him once I judged him ready. Robert had sat me down 2 years before he died and made me promise something. "Be strong about this," he said. "Don't let your heart override your judgment if Daniel isn't ready." I promised, never imagining I would actually need to honor those words. Daniel was 38 when Vanessa entered his life. She arrived at my door in designer heels and a Chanel bag, wearing the kind of confidence that costs money to maintain. From the moment she stepped inside, her eyes moved through my home like a surveyor's instrument, pausing on Robert's Southwestern art collection, trailing along the antique credenza we had found at an estate sale, calculating the value of silver candlesticks and crystal vases. She called it curiosity. I recognized it as inventory. Every personal question I asked dissolved into vague non-answers. A father in finance, a mother who did charity work, schools back east that I wouldn't recognize, a consulting career too dull to describe. She redirected every conversation with practiced ease, turning attention toward Daniel while slipping nothing of substance about herself into the room. Daniel, for his part, was luminous with infatuation. He had never sounded like that about anyone before, excited and certain and completely unguarded. Within months, she was quietly rearranging his priorities. Sunday dinners shrank to occasional appearances, then near disappearances. When they did visit together, her comments about my home carried a particular edge. "So dated," she would say with a laugh, fingertips brushing the furniture. Robert and I had chosen together over a lifetime. Daniel never pushed back. He just shifted uncomfortably and let the moment pass. The money requests began softly. $200,000 for a consulting business they planned to launch together. When I offered $50,000 instead, the room went cold. She had expected a different number, and her disappointment was not well disguised. As the months passed, I watched my son slowly become a man I did not entirely recognize, someone who apologized for me before I had said anything wrong, who measured his loyalties by how uncomfortable honesty made Vanessa feel. The engagement party was held at Vanessa's parents' country club on a Saturday in October. White roses and orchids filled every table. Gold lighting caught the champagne glasses. A jazz quartet played in the corner, while uniformed waiters moved silently through the crowd. It was stunning, and it felt entirely designed to remind certain guests that they did not quite belong. I had spent a week preparing. A navy dress, understated and elegant. A custom platinum bracelet with small diamonds. $3,000 from a jeweler I trusted, presented as a genuine welcome to the woman my son had chosen. I arrived 30 minutes after the start time, not wanting to crowd the hosts, and drove myself because Daniel had suggested it would be easier that way. Vanessa saw me before Daniel did. She leaned close to his ear, and in the moment before he turned, something moved across his face, not warmth, not relief, but something closer to irritation. She stepped forward before he could, intercepting my approach with a bright smile and the first small wound of the evening. "Charlotte, we were worried you might not come. Not glad you're here. Worried you might not come." The distinction was deliberate, and several of her friends standing nearby caught every word of it. I handed Vanessa the gift. She opened it in front of the gathered crowd, glanced at the bracelet, and handed it to Daniel without removing it from the box. "Jewelry, how traditional," one of her friends laughed. Daniel held the box in silence. He said nothing to her. He said nothing to me. The hour that followed was a quiet kind of agony. I circulated through a room where I knew no one and recognized that no one particularly wanted to know me. when I approached Daniel to suggest a simple Sunday dinner, just the three of us. A chance to build something, Vanessa turned it into a performance. She mocked the tradition, called it a relic of another era, raised her voice until the conversations around us went quiet, and every face was turned toward the scene she had created. She told the assembled guests that I was suffocating, overbearing, a mother who could not release her adult son. Daniel, surrounded by people he wanted to impress, told me to leave. I walked out without tears and without argument. On the drive home, my hands shook badly enough that I had to pull over twice. I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes in the dark before I could go inside. Then I changed into Robert's old t-shirt, soft from years of washing, and sat in his worn leather chair and asked the empty room what I was supposed to do now. By 3 in the morning, I was at Robert's desk, reading the trust documents by lamplight. He had anticipated something like this. Section 4.7, subsection C, if the trustee had reasonable grounds to believe the beneficiary was under undue outside influence with respect to trust assets, distributions could be restricted until that influence had ceased. Robert had built me a door. That night, I decided to walk through it. Monday morning, I met with Paul, Robert's attorney of 20 years, a steady man who poured coffee before asking questions. I told him everything, the escalating financial requests, the systematic isolation, the public humiliation, the smirk on Vanessa's face as Daniel asked me to leave. By 10:30, the trust was locked. No distributions without my written approval. Not a dollar. The call came the next morning. Daniel's voice was tight, businesslike, stripped of any acknowledgement that he had thrown his mother out of his engagement party 2 days earlier. He needed $500,000 from the trust. He and Vanessa had found a building. The seller needed proof of funds by end of week, 10 times the original ask. I told him I would not approve it. I told him I believed Vanessa wanted access to his father's money, not a future with him, he shouted. He told me the inheritance was his. I reminded him that his father had specifically placed it in trust because he understood that money given too early, to someone not ready to protect it, disappears. Come to me when you're ready to talk honestly, I said. Until then, the trust stays locked. He told me I had lost my son, that we were finished, that I should never call him again, and in the silence that followed, I said the only 4 words I had prepared for that moment: I love you. Daniel, nothing else. No ultimatums, no recriminations, no predictions about what Vanessa would do next. Just the oldest truth I owned. She left him 2 days later, when he called her bluff, explaining that the trust was restricted, that there was no immediate windfall, that they would have to build something together. From genuine effort, she called him weak. She said she had wasted a year of her life. She packed her belongings and was gone the same afternoon. Daniel texted me 3 words. Can we talk? I called immediately. His voice was hollow and young in a way I had not heard since he was a boy. He asked if I had been right about her all along. I told him carefully that I believed she had seen an opportunity and pursued it, that real love does not evaporate the moment money becomes unavailable. He cried. He apologized for the party, for the silence, for choosing her comfort over my dignity, for being willing to ignore every warning because he wanted so badly to be chosen by someone. I told him that people do love him. I reminded him that deserving love means requiring it to be real, not settling for something that comes attached to conditions about inheritance. He asked if he could come home for Sunday dinner. That was 3 weeks ago. He has come every week since. We cook together, talk about ordinary things, and slowly rebuild what was damaged. Last Sunday, leaving at the door, he told me he was not going to ask me to unlock the trust. Not yet. He said he needed to demonstrate to me and to himself that he could build something on his own terms first. Then he hugged me and whispered thank you. Sometimes protecting someone looks nothing like love from the outside. Sometimes it looks like stubbornness, or control, or cruelty. But Robert knew what he was asking me to hold. And I held it. That, in the end, is all a mother can do.